So you want to feel confident, right? Which is something that is an honorable goal, and I think that the goal of every human being is to feel this way. The first step in feeling confident, at least for me, is doing little things for myself. So I'll give you an example. I'll do dishes. I'll go to work. I'll hang out with friends. The problem is, we often measure our confidence with intelligence. The problem, of course, is that we're only thinking in the terms of book smarts, while we're disregarding other intelligences like kinesthetics. So we run away from things that seem hard. They're frustrating. But it's okay. It happens to all of us. Just take your time. You're in no rush. You will get it eventually. And even if you don't, you can't be good at everything. Our value is not based on intelligence, nor should our confidence be. We don't look at those with learning disabilities as being subhuman. So why are we doing this to ourselves? A huge problem, and why we aren't feeling confident, is when we lose, because of the stakes that we set for ourselves. We talk all the time about controlling the emotional lows, but we need to control the emotional highs. You see this in games, where a person can win a game and go, "Oh my God, did you see that? Wasn't that crazy?" And then, on the other side, "Yo man, I suck ass at this." And this wild swing from one extreme to the other, as it would be to nobody's surprise, is quite unhealthy. So being honest about the real importance of things helps. And recognizing that defeat is a natural and even good thing to experience. So for example, with League, what you will see a lot is players will lose, and the best that they'll do is a mental reset. At best, I stress. And then they'll queue up for another game. But they've just skipped the learning part of going and reviewing what went wrong. And it also helps to have someone else watch us as well. It's hard to see what we are doing right and wrong when we are tilted, and mix that in with our biases and assumptions. It becomes even trickier. Another thing you might see is blaming outside factors instead of looking inwards. There are just some things we cannot change. However, we can change our response to these questions and the outside factors. You could blame your team and flame them, but what good is that going to do? All that is going to happen is you'll get more pissed off, and then in turn, you're not going to learn anything. Plus, that constant cortisol and stress is bad for you, not just mentally, but physically as well. This is just bad thinking, because it presumes that you have all the facts about a situation, when there may be things you have yet to even consider. This type of simplistic thinking is used a lot in court in regards to eyewitness testimony. Despite its inaccuracy, it is given respect because it's easy to understand. Whereas forensic evidence, despite being better, is more difficult to understand. Much as it is easier to blame outside factors than to look at all angles. If it's not our fault, then there's nothing we can do about it. But if we might be responsible, then it means there may be a lot of thinking to do. With this thinking, we might have to change a lot about ourselves. And this may be difficult, if not even downright unpleasant. People will sometimes avoid new things because they seem uncomfortable. They've set this limitation on themselves. This idea of what they can and cannot accomplish. By seeking comfort, we induce discomfort. The first day of learning something may be uncomfortable, but will it be like that forever? We all start off somewhere. I think it's important to be competitive, but we have to be real about what games are. They are just games. It is no bad thing to live a simple life. Sometimes we might smash our keyboards or say things we don't mean. So what I need you to do is take a step back, have a 5-minute break, go grab a cup of coffee, something else to get you away from that situation. Those 5 minutes, so simple and yet are so crucial, and will save you so much regret. Gives you time to think instead of being impulsive. Ask yourself, during that time, is what I'm about to say going to impact me in a week, a month, a year? And is what I am stressed about going to matter in a week, a month, or a year? If you also want to be a good winner, then you have to start thinking about losing and winning in different ways. You're not just winning one game. Losing that one game is quite frankly okay. You don't need to put all your effort on it like it's the end of the world. Life itself is a series of games, and each game, win or lose, has something it can teach you. You want to be someone other people will want to play with, or that coaches will want to teach. And you're not going to get that by blaming other people. You'll come across as, well, quite a nasty person. And, ironically, by trying to win the game, you've lost the battle, the war of being liked. You want things to be fun. Otherwise, you end up working or competing as something that you hate. And now, you might say, oh, well, that's fine. I can deal with it now. But what about in 5, 10, 20, 30 years? When you push off your problems, they don't go away. They collect interest. They evolve. You can either choose to deal with it now, or let life choose for you later. And you might not like when life chooses for you to deal with it. What's even deadlier is the yes men. Make sure you pay attention to the people you have around you. Yes men, while it can sound nice in the moment, they won't help you get any better. You'll end up living in this echo chamber and never change or become better because you're convinced there's nothing to change. Which is why criticism is super important in getting better. And it's best to hear this from friends than enemies who won't word it so nicely. You want people who want the best for you, because when you win, they win. Telling someone they're right in the pursuit of keeping the peace will only hurt them. Plus, you can't say that definitively, especially if you don't have all the facts and different perspectives on the situation. We all have a story to tell, so when you only hear theirs, think twice. Plus, you're their friend. You don't want to automatically take your friend's side and let that bias win. But I recognize it is a lot easier said than done to be objective about things with a friend. We are good people, and as good people, we want to believe and hope for the best of intentions in people, especially our friends. So, we might assume they're in the right, regardless of if we have sufficient information or not. Which is why I like to treat things like a courtroom. I want evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. I want all stories and perspectives. And then, and only then, do I make up my mind. And now here's the key part. But I don't double down. I try my best to always be open to the idea that I can be proven wrong. You look at it all the time with science, where information is constantly updated. Things change. I've talked to hundreds of people I disagree with on a fundamental level. But I talk to them because they have a story to tell. They have something to teach me if I just listen. And even if they can't be a positive example for me, they can serve as a strong warning, if nothing else. I try to avoid ideology. If I talk to a far-right Republican, it's likely he'll say Obama is bad and Joe Biden is bad, and let's go Brandon and gun rights. If I talk to a far-left liberal, they'll likely say Donald Trump is the devil and that Christians are ruining America. I actually had a friend who felt brave enough to try to grill me on my religious beliefs. And I could have taken offense, but instead I was curious. So I asked them why they needed to know. And what I found was they, like many people, didn't actually have their own thoughts. Rather, they parroted things they had previously heard, and when challenged on those beliefs and stereotypes they held about Christians, they were not able to provide an intelligent response because they had surrounded themselves with only people who agreed with them. In the pursuit of protecting ourselves from being offended, we silence knowledge. We spend all day bragging on ourselves. We are our own worst critic. So the next day you get up, write down nice things about yourself. At least one nice thing. Just one nice thing. And you do this every day. Then, speak other things into existence. Fake it till you make it. You have that believe it mentality. You will get there at some point. I quit comparing myself to others and just asked if I was a better person than yesterday. All I did by comparing myself to others was make myself more insecure, more miserable. I started hating myself and forgot about all the great things I learned along the way. Those people aren't me. And a lot of what we see on social media are just highlights. Small snippets of carefully selected moments for people to show to the rest of the world. And when we constantly see that, it's easy to assume we must be the failure. But one man's trash is another man's treasure. You go pursuing that rich lifestyle. I think money is great. Don't get it twisted. But you're already winning. If you're healthy, you've got the greatest gift of all. Because when you're sick, all you'll want is to be healthy again. Do not slave away all your youth, the best years of your life, grinding away in the hopes that maybe, just maybe, you can live a fraction of what these billionaires are living like. It's bad too, because the brain is designed to see negatives far more often than positives. It was a survival mechanism to keep us aware and prioritize seeing dangers such as lions. Because if our attention was focused on that pretty flower, we might pay with our life. Of course, the issue is now there is no lion around us. Relatively speaking, we are a lot safer. So we have to be extra diligent to see good things and think good things and to say good things, to observe the good things. And that habit will become easier over time due to neuroplasticity. Your brain will form stronger connections. You're never going to be your best self if you're trying to beat others. You'll only add more pressure to yourself. And your attention that could be spent on yourself is being wasted. That time could be better spent reviewing. You need to act like you're the main character in your story, because you are. You've got to think about more than your desires. You need to think about what other people want too. This journey does in fact feature you, but your story also has side characters and a supporting cast. If you have a partner, you know all too well that compromise and taking part in their interests and date night ideas are great, but this applies to all people in your life. You can spend your whole life focused on what you didn't get, feeling sorry for yourself and miserable, or you can focus on making sure other people are given the opportunities to succeed and rise above this, just like you can. Because by doing good for others, you feel good. And in return, they'll do the same for you, God willing, through a good person. Humble yourself. Win in your mind. Be grateful for what you have, and know reality isn't so objective as we think. Rather, it is a collection of ideas, beliefs, and perspectives. It doesn't mean not wanting any desires. It just means being appreciative in the present moment. It is about the journey, not the destination. Now remember I mentioned not having yes men just a minute ago. Well, don't have the other extreme either. There will be people who tear you down. Misery loves company. And these individuals, through jealousy, envy, and evil, will try to convince you of being a bad person. They'll bring up past mistakes. But that's the thing. The past is the past. You are not you from 5 years ago. You are not you from yesterday. Today is a new day to be a better person. And it starts with the smallest of steps. One good example is the quick fix. What you do is think of yourself succeeding at a task you find difficult. This will provoke a feeling of power. Body language is important too. Try out a nice old power pose, or try a pep talk. Your self-talk has a large impact on how you view yourself and how you perform. After all, this is the voice you'll hear the most. MMA fighter Rose Namajunas often will say, "I'm the best." Building our character is the foundation of our self-esteem. Early as a child, if all goes well, we are given loving parents who help us raise properly and give us the love and attention to build character. However, when this doesn't happen, you grow up damaged and traumatized. When you hear you're a failure from your parents or abused, you may blame yourself. It's especially painful considering out of all the people who would hurt you, in theory, your parents would be the least likely. So of course for some the question becomes, how bad of a person am I that my own parents, the ones who are supposed to love me the most, would say and do such horrible things to me? So working through that trauma is especially important. Often, we treat surface level problems when there's a lot more digging to be done. There are, of course, 3 parts of the self. There is the real self, the way we are, the ideal self, the person we would like to become, and the dreaded self, the person we fear we will become. In the philosophy of Stoicism, every challenge, obstacle, event, and so forth should be used as a way to challenge our character. Through this consistency, the hopes is that we will in turn become a better person for it. Now don't get it twisted. I'm not saying through all this to not be competitive. I'm just saying you need to be enjoying it. Otherwise, you'll burn yourself out. It's so simple, but when you find you aren't enjoying it, take a step back and relax. It's okay to take your time. Slow and steady wins the race. You win a sprint during a marathon. Otherwise, you are guaranteed not to make it. You can't rush art. Get rid of your expectations for how short or long this should take. If you expect nothing, you will never be disappointed. Nobody ever on their deathbed said, "I wish I had ground myself harder into the ground. I wish I had worked 80-hour work days or work weeks to make money. I'm not going to be able to spend when I'm dead. Your free time is invaluable. That is a non-refundable currency. Start treating it as such. God willing, your boss and coworkers love you. But if you die, they will replace you in a week in most cases. If you go homeless, that's not their problem. If you get sick, you will be considered too much of a liability. So pay attention to where you put your best self at. If you can, maybe also just take a break from social media and the news, or at least limit it. You find all this negative stuff that can affect your mindset. Why would you willingly ingest this poison? This feels like progress, but it's only perceived progress. The constant dopamine hits trick your brain into believing it's accomplished things. And over time, you build up a level of tolerance to where things such as cleaning a room you can barely muster to do, let alone sit down and study mathematics or whatever for a few hours a night. That's the problem with instant gratification. It's right there at all times. To gain your new life, you have to come to terms with giving up your old life and the things that come with it. Some people, that very thought alone is uncomfortable. Which is why I highly recommend sitting down and thinking about what type of life you could have long term if you just did the work. And then don't think about the task, just do them. With time, it will get easier and easier. Just keep doing it. Your integrity, your honor, these can never be taken away from you. So above all else, be the person you respect. Your loved ones will remember you for the kind things you say or do, not for if you went on a win streak in a public lobby. So with this knowledge, we should pay extra care to our duty of loving. The way we make people feel will be regarded forever. What would you tell your best friend going through the same struggles? We need to practice self-acceptance. That doesn't mean we can't change things or about ourselves. It just means we love what we are in this moment. When you love yourself, there's a lot more room to love others. Trusting fully in those who love you helps. Ask others what they love about you and see those things you have been blind to. It is never a bad thing to be ordinary. Bad people do not worry if they are bad people. Forgiving your past mistakes for what they are, mistakes. You are not perfect, and even if we do monstrous things, we are not monstrous people. Ask yourself, when you are faced with hateful words, what those people are really like. For if it's an eye for an eye, everybody goes blind. To hold up to an individual only the worst moments and thoughts of theirs, everyone would seem quite bad. So it's important to recognize with a kind and loving tone that we are more than our worst moments. And we can learn and grow from those as they do not define us now or who we will become in the future. I always like to ask myself, how are these thoughts and actions serving me? We get so caught up in emotions and criticism from ourselves and others, we often forget to see if it even makes sense. It's such a simple thing, but keeping your word is going to help you. Whether we are making a promise to ourselves or to the people we love, we make these promises because we feel it is the right thing to do, that it will be beneficial to us. An example of this is making a promise to quit smoking. A promise, while it is about making your conditions better in life and improving, also is in a way a test of one's integrity, which is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. The promise is our most powerful way of communicating and connecting with others. And yet, research has shown that we lie on average 1 to 2 times a day. However, it may be even higher, as the literature does not reflect the behavior of most people. Now, the reasons for these lies can be well-intentioned and in good faith, and they can range from the serious to the light ones, from well-intentioned to evil. However, when we break a promise or lie, we end up having emotional conflict due to us not keeping our word or being dishonest, which in turn affects our self-esteem. Much of Stoicism revolves around radical acceptance, which is a coping skill that is used during difficult or challenging times. We change the things we can change and worry not for that which is out of our control, because of the fact it is out of our control. So our time and our energy could be better spent elsewhere. Let's just imagine for a moment, shall we, that I say to you, I hope you have a good day, just not better than me. How well do you think that would go over? You'd raise some eyebrows with that one. And we all understand this isn't exactly helpful in maintaining long-term friendships. Well, it's the same principle when you're competing with someone. For you to win, others have to lose. And that mindset is really harmful. Let's say you're both trying to be head captain of a team. You might find these conflicting feelings of, well, Jim's my friend, and I want him to do very well, but I also hope he doesn't. Not because I don't love him, but then that would mean I would lose my chance at being team captain. You can want to do well without competing with them, and that starts by just competing with yourself instead. This is in no way a comprehensive list, so if you have questions or comments, please leave them down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend about this, share this to other platforms, and check out my TikTok at Mr. Bunny Loves Pancake. Thank you guys.